Hey everyone, Brad here. Thanks for joining us this week for our expert interview series. And I'm super excited to have one of my mentors, Dr. Ken Kanakin here. He's an amazing world-class chiropractor from Canada. And I've known him for quite a few years now. He's been a really big inspiration in my career. And I really wanted to bring him on to talk about a couple of different things that are super, super important. And especially as we're going through a time of economical change, health practices change, and how we're doing business. He's working on some really, really important things that I think are really impactful for the industry as a whole. So we'll be talking a little bit today, a bit about finding your niche, getting dialed in with that, as well as how to build a network, how to connect with other healthcare practitioners, personal trainers, building your network and creating a symbiotic relationship where we can help treat more clients, more patients, and actually build a stronger culture together so that we can always succeed. So Ken, he's been really awesome, and I think it's probably best he does the best intro for himself. So thanks for coming on the show, and just tell us all a little bit about kind of your background, and we'll get into that.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Brad. It's a pleasure and a real honor to be chatting with you and everyone. My focus has always been on weight training and weight training injuries. So I'm a competitive powerlifter, so I've been competing for over 40 years. And back in the 80s, I was getting ready for the Canadian National Powerlifting Championships as far as powerlifting. So at that time, I was squatting about 525, weighing about 165 pounds. And 2 weeks before, as I was just warming up with 400 pounds, my right knee basically sounded like a bed sheet ripping. And so I was like, oh no. So I had to pull out of the competition and try and rehabilitate it. I went to see the medical doctor. And he basically said, well, don't do squats, do leg extension. And I'm like, well, I'm a competitive powerlifter. I'm not going to drag a leg extension machine onto the platform. So he was of no use, and went to see massage therapy, and they worked on the leg a little bit to try and release some of the tension. That helped a little bit. Went to physiotherapy. That helped a little bit. And I got to the point where I didn't really have any pain walking around, going up and down stairs. I could run, but I couldn't squat over 400 pounds. So, because it caused too much pain. So, my dad goes, well, why don't you see the chiropractor? I said, why? It's my knee. It's not my back. He said, go. So I went and I went to see Dr. Merv Ritchie. I'm from Kelowna, British Columbia. And so he started doing some muscle testing. And this is what always inspired me about muscle testing. So left side, really strong, no problems. Right side, completely inhibited. All the muscles that he tested on the right side weren't basically as strong as the left-hand side. And Merv is a marathon runner. His arm was about this big. He wasn't big at all. And so, he's basically, used these SLT blocks, untorqued the pelvis. We took x-rays, and you could literally see the iliums basically had shifted. And so he says, well, it looks like it's coming from low back. Your knee healed a long time ago. This was 9 months later. So I went, okay. So he started adjusting my back, and strength came back, doing a little bit of rehab, and literally within about 3 weeks, I was back squatting over 500. So that inspired me to go to school. I'm a welder by trade, so I used to build bridges and stuff like that. So I stopped doing that and came out to Toronto to become a chiropractor. So that was in 1986, 87. And I graduated in 1991. And then what I found is over the years of, going into practice, is that there was two different fields. One is you had the personal trainers, and they were trying to fix things through exercise. And then you had the chiropractors, physiotherapists, massage therapists, that were really giving bad information, like squats are bad for the knees and everything else. So I was teaching across Canada and the United States for different organizations on weight training assessments and rehabilitation and everything else, and really tried to focus in on weight training. And in 1999, I wanted to get the two groups together. I wanted to get the fitness professionals and the health professionals together in the same building. Because normally when I go to most conferences and seminars, I'm similar to Brad, where I'm a bit of a seminar junkie. And so I've been to literally hundreds of thousands of seminars. And I usually, when you go to a chiropractic seminar, all we do is talk about chiropractic. And so with Swiss Society of Weight Training Injury Specialists, I wanted basically a group that would focus in on weight training injuries, the prevention, the rehabilitation, and the treatment of it. And so I started that in 1999 and was doing it until 2005. Would have anywhere between 30 to 50 presenters, and probably 500 to 700 delegates or attendees. And it was really, really good because you could see the athletes, the powerlifters, the weight training athletes, the powerlifters, the bodybuilders, the Olympic lifters, and they were all conversing with the doctors and with the therapists. And you saw this synergy, happening. And it was really, really powerful. And in 2005, I decided just to focus in on working within the clinic. And in 2015, I brought back the symposium. And I still see the synergy, the new ideas, the new concepts, the new therapeutics, and everything else that wasn't around in the early 2000s. And so for the past, it's been 20 years now that, I've been putting on the symposium. I was supposed to put it on in October 2020 and couldn't do it because of COVID, and the hotel got locked up. And so that's been a real challenge. And I've been writing books, doing videos, created a website called Swiss Video Flicks, where I have all the presentations that were at Swiss for the last 20 years uploaded. And for $7.98, you can, a month, very similar to the Netflix model, you can go watch some of the top people talk about very specific issues, whether it be treatment protocols, active release, muscle testing, regenerative medicine, which is the PRP and the stem cells, and all the different protocols, and even training protocols such as from Ed Cohn, Kazmaier, Matt Wenning, J.L. Holdsworth, Dave Tate,
That's a big thing, I think. I think that's a big thing to underscore too, is that these people who are presenting are like top docs and trainers and everyone in the world. It's not like it's a bunch of random Joe Schmoes, but you've got Dave Leahy,
Mike Leahy,
from Mike Leahy, from ART or David Leaf. You've got a lot of top level people, and the information there is just really transformational, and especially because you're seeing a personal trainer understand it from a doctor perspective, or and whatnot as well. So.
Very much so. And I think it's an introduction of the different techniques and strategies. So, and what was really unique, usually as a presenter, you would go in, you would present, and then you would leave. What I found with Swiss is that they all stayed around and they actually attended each other's presentations. So that was pretty cool. And then they would also interact. So I've always tried to get the best in different areas and do different types of themes to try and really help people out in whatever way or manner. And then also the networking, in the sense of people would be able to meet different people, get to know them. And that's one of the challenges that we have nowadays, is the idea is, how do you actually build up your business? And I know you've been doing a great job teaching people that. And there's some different models that I've been working with for the past year to try and to show what does it take to actually get a referral, especially for me. I have 20,000 patients. I've been practicing for 30 years this year. So I have a lot of patients, and most personal training. Let me ask you this, Brad, not on the online world, but one-on-one in person. How many clients can a personal trainer handle? I've heard it's anywhere between 15 to 20. Is that true?
Really, it depends on how many people you're seeing. I would say, if you're like a
one-on-one.
For me, I would say I kept a roster of somewhere between no more than 25 when I was training full time, because I was seeing them 3-4 times a week or more, not once, and kind of stuff. So
right. So you don't need a lot of people.
No.
Unlike myself as a chiropractor, on last Friday, I treated 53 patients in a day. So, and that's sort of a typical. So I'll see anywhere between 30 to 50 patients in a day. So I can help build anyone's practice. But the challenge being is that I don't know what you're really good at. I won't refer to another person who has the same skill set and the same level as I do. And I think that's the biggest thing. And one of the professions that has figured this out the best is medicine. And let me explain what I mean by that. So if you have a medical doctor, which we can't see that. So if you have an MD, they go to pre-med, 4 years, and then they do 4 years of medical school. And what happens is they become a general practitioner, a GP. Now, what a lot of medical doctors do is they level up and they become more focused. So the GP all of a sudden goes back to school, and it could be anywhere between 4 to 6 to 8 years to level up, and say they're going to do surgery. So they've leveled up to be a surgeon. Now, most surgeons will focus in on one area. And so they'll focus in on, say, the low back. So they've leveled up even more. You won't see too many surgeons focusing in on low back, ankle, shoulder, because they're all so complex, and it's too hard to be really, really good at all those different things. So they focus in on, I'm a low back surgeon. I focus in on that. Some of them level up even more, and they focus in on kids, pediatrics. So all of a sudden, this GP, he's looking for a surgeon, but not just any surgeon. He's looking for a surgeon that works on kids, because basically he's dealing with a kid that may have had a skateboard injury and now has a fractured spine. Because pediatrics is a lot different than the average person. So I think in the training world, we have to do the same thing. We have to level up. My view with what's happened over the last year is that I think the age of general personal training is basically greatly diminished. It's basically demolished, because most people talking to patients, 3 things have occurred. The first one is most people have figured out how to train on their own through online training, through watching YouTube, talking to other people. And in essence, training and getting into shape isn't super complex. The second issue is that a lot of people, because they've lost their job, they don't have a lot of money to spend on just any random trainer. And the third aspect is that a lot of people will be afraid to go into the gym. There's a real fear factor, because they've installed that, unfortunately, in us. So you need to take a look at what are some of the different models and referral systems that you can do. So let's take the area as far as a personal trainer. Personal trainer, their education is varied. So they can have a kinesiology background, which, depending on which school you go to, may or may not be helpful, because some of them don't deal with weight training or even getting into shape. So the personal trainer, what they can do is they can level up. And what I mean by leveling up is they can focus in on a niche. And you and I talked about this many times. Become really, really good at something. I'm not sure what. And it basically turn your passion into your profession. And the whole focus, for me, my passion is weight training. Even after all these years, I still love buying books, reading books, watching videos on different techniques on how to deal with weight training injuries, and buying weird machines and everything else, and finding out how else can you actually treat and to focus in on that. So for the personal trainer, how can they level up? They can basically focus in on, say, soccer. And so they can become the top strength coach in the city, in your city, for soccer. Now, the physiotherapist, the chiropractor can also do the same thing. They can become really, really good at something if they love the actual sport and not just from a, economical standpoint. Because if you go into it strictly to try and build your practice, you're going to burn out because you won't have that passion of that sustainability. For medicine, this takes a long time. You can do this actually fairly quickly, which most trainers are going to have to do. So my advice in these times is to really focus in on what am I really passionate about? It doesn't matter. It could be baseball, it could be basketball, it could be football. It doesn't really matter. I was at a conference. Basically, it was at the Chiropractic College here in Toronto, and we did a speed mentoring. So there was about 10 of us that have been in the industry for 20, 30 years, and they had the second, third, and fourth years there for the chiropractic, and they would get 10 minutes with us. And I was talking about this idea of niching. How do you niche up? And there's different areas that you can do it. Number one, you can do it for demographic. You can either go with people that are young or people that are old. You can do a sport, doesn't really matter. You can do a body part. And the person that's done that the best is Dr. Stu McGill. Stu is basically focused in on the back. And because of that, he's unbelievably good at doing assessments and also his protocol as far as doing some of the exercises and even treatment protocols and everything else of that nature. But he's focused in on the lower back. You have Brett Contreras. What is he? He's the glute guy. He's taken one body part and he's become the world expert on glutes. He even did his PhD in it, which is kind of bizarre that you can do it on one muscle. So you need to level up and focus in. And then the second part is, how do I get my message out there? Because you can be really good at something, but no one knows who you are. So is this helpful, Brad?
Yeah, I think it's super important. And that's a big thing. It's like, you really need to have the specialization, and it's even more so, whether you're, chiro or physio or massage or whatever,
doesn't matter.
It's the same concept. Like, you're focusing on exercise, weight training injuries, right? So, people are coming to you for that. Like, you're getting like top powerlifters in the world that you've treated and so on. Yep. So it's really important to be able to do that. And I think that that's part of standing out and having, your reputation as well. Like, when I started to get more specific with the niche, it's like, now all of a sudden you're attracting different types of people. You're not getting, you're not treating like pregnancy massage treatments or something. So you're focusing on like people who have issues that you're passionate with. And that's something that's often overlooked, I think, is that people, they try to say, I'm going to take someone who's affluent or athletes, but they don't really have a plan how to get there, or they don't have the skill set, or they're not really passionate about them. They just think, well, I'm going to make lots of money, or it's going to be really easy. And then when it is not as easy as they think, they're like, okay, I need to do something else. So yeah. That's the super, super important thing, is like, you've got to have something you're passionate with.
Well, and so when I was at the speed mentoring, I was asking all the different people, the chiropractors. I said, so in Toronto, we got 4 million people here. Who's the go-to chiropractor for football? No one knew. Who is the go-to person for basketball? The Raptors. They won. They won the world championships. We don't know. I still don't know. How about soccer? Who is the go-to chiropractor for soccer? TFC, they won the world championships. No one knew. Who's the go-to person in Toronto for weight training? And they all said me. And I said, yeah, because I spent 30 years writing books, doing videos, doing symposiums, doing seminars, writing articles. Everything about what I try and do is about weight training and weight training injuries. Why? Because I love weight training. I still compete in powerlifting. I still love, learning everything. I'm training all the time. And so that to me, it's not work when another powerlifter comes in. And you have to have that mentality. So I had Ken Wetham, and you know who Ken is.
Yeah.
He's a power lifter, and he came in a few years ago. He was squatting about 840 pounds at that time, and he set a world record in his age group. He was 52, and he said, Ken, my back bothers me, when I'm squatting that, bothers me at 400. Can you help? I said, I'll try my best. So we started doing some assessments and treated the low back and some scars on the abdomen because it looked like the scars was creating an inhibition to the low back. And all of a sudden he says, I want to get to 900. I said, okay. Now, you ask most medical doctors or physios or anything else, their question is, well, why do you want to squat 900? Well, because it's cool. Why not? So when you're an athlete, you get that. So all of a sudden, we went down in Detroit, and he squatted 900. And then he goes, Ken, do you think we can do 1,000? I went, let's go for it. So he trained. I was driving out to Oshawa to train with him, and I was competing at the time, and it was a great time. And he went to the Arnold's. He had bronchitis, but he took 1,000 pounds squat for a ride. He got basically 3/4 of the way up, and because he wasn't feeling well, he didn't finish it. But I mean, that's the mentality, and you have to have like-minded mentality of a therapist or a doctor or something else of that nature. And here's the biggest thing. So if you become, say, really passionate or focused and everything else, here's what it takes. The whole thing comes down to, what does it take for me to refer one of my patients over to you? Because I mean, it's a big ask. You just don't go in and, give me your card and, say, what, can you refer all your patients to me? So
that's what a lot of people think, right? That's the big thing. It's that, why would I do that? Like, oh, I'm going to be friendly and I'm going to do lunches for doctors and all that stuff. And it doesn't work.
You know what's really interesting is that, so I do a lot of muscle testing and taking a lot of Dr. David Leaf's work and everything else. And there was a number of us. We had a small community, and I had some chiropractors, some friends that were in muscle testing. So I would refer patients downtown when patients wanted to get assessed similar to what I did. And so I was sending it over to this one person, and all of a sudden one of my patients came back and she said, never send me there again. I went, oh, well, what happened? He says, he basically tried to sign me up for a year, and he said it had nothing to do with muscle testing, and it's all nonsense. And, it's all in your head and everything else. So I went and saw this chiropractor. He's a good friend of mine. And I went, hey, what's up? Like, what are you doing? He says, oh, I stopped all that muscle testing bullshit. I'm only doing brain. Concussions, brain, everything's about the brain. And I went, all right, not referring to you again, because we're not like-minded. So here's the biggest thing. Here's the issue, is that basically it comes down to, and you've probably seen this before, know, like, and trust. And so this is of the person. We're always here, do you know the person? Do you like the person? And do you trust the person? And trust is also, it's kind of a weird one because that takes time. So this is of the person or of the brand. So, there's a certain brand that's out there that you know what it is, you like it, and also you trust what it's going to be. We see this in the supplement industry. There's a second level to this as far as for myself, because I can know you. I had a person, actually, Mark, you know who Mark is, trained at there. He comes in, he says, Ken, can you refer me over some patients for personal training? I said, sure. For what? He says, low back. I went, all right. What do you do? He says, well, I know DTS. I went, what's that? Now, I know what DTS is. It's Kevin Darby Training Systems. Kevin presented for me at Swiss, but I don't know what it is. I don't know the protocols. So now it takes it to the second level of, you have to know, like, and trust the education. And with the education, it's basically structured, which is school, and also unstructured, which is, if I'm going to deal with the top powerlifter in the world, where do I go to school to become the top powerlifting coach? It doesn't exist. Or for a competitive bodybuilder, or for basically someone wants to become a figure champion, a female wants to become a figure champion. Where do you go to school for that? It doesn't exist. So you take certifications. It's basically experience. It's unstructured. You can go to school to learn about some of the, metabolism and training protocols and all that, but most of it's going to be unstructured. It's going to be experiential, which is fine, which is actually, that's all we have. And it actually works out better. So you have to know, like, and trust the person. You have to know, like, and trust their education. That's the second level. There's a third level, and that is know, like, and trust. I've been working with Matt Nickel with this model as far as understanding what does it take to get a referral. And this is of the application. Do I agree with how you actually do it? So in training, in 2001, I had Dorian Yates present for me. He's super, 6-time Mr. Olympia, super heavyweight, low reps, low sets. In 2002, I had Lee Haney present for me. Exact opposite training. High amount of sets, high amount of reps, low weight. 8-time Mr. Olympia. Which one is right? They're both right. Basically, that's the art of training, to try and identify what is it that you do. So you have to know, like, and trust the application of what I actually do. So if I'm a heavy duty guy where I love that heavy duty, I'm going to try and find people that are like-minded. No different than I do a lot of muscle testing. So if I'm going to refer someone over, I want a like-minded person that does muscle testing, because that way we can confer and everything else. They can do some other techniques. Now, if it's something specific as far as acupuncture or some different therapeutic aspects, whether it be osteopathy, cranial, that's fine. But I mean, if they're going to be doing the same thing and I'm referring someone over to a different city, I want basically someone that is like-minded, and will always refer like-minded, or someone who understands our style. So I have to know, like, and trust the person. I have to know, like, and trust their education. Are you educated enough from that? And what's happening in the online world is that anyone can call themselves an online coach. And some of them are good and some of them aren't, because they just randomly say, hey, I'm going to make some money writing out programs and photocopying diets for, the same diet for everyone. So that's not, I might know the person, I might like the person, but I don't trust them because they're doing the same thing. And I've seen that happen too many times. And now I have to know, like, and trust the application. When you get all three of these, the synergy of that, all of a sudden, it's not like, it's love. I love the way that you train. All of a sudden, you become impassioned about it. And I saw this a lot with a lot of the different leaders that have been out there. A lot of people, when Charles Poliquin passed away, the emotional outpouring of, oh my God, he changed my life, I loved what he did and everything else. And Charles was, he's a complicated human being. He wasn't the nicest person on the planet, but he had a lot of really good stuff, and people really, really engaged into that, where there's a huge connection on that. So you connect on all three and you get the results and the significance from that. It's enormous. All of a sudden you become the go-to person. But it takes focus. It takes the same thing. It comes down to this, the leveling up. Most trainers, you take a weekend course, you become a certified personal trainer. What's your education? I like training. I've done it for a while. I'll take a certified personal training, read some books, do some YouTube, take a few other seminars, and I'll be training people. Now, if you level up in soccer, and they can level up even more, where they can basically do kids. And they can level up even more where they could just do female kids. They just want to work with females because they have different issues. Now, can you train females similar to males? Yeah. Are there some alterations? Yeah. But I mean, if you have a female strength coach, she can focus in on, I'm going to really become the go-to person for female soccer players in this age group. That's called niche. So all of a sudden people are like, hey, I have my child, she's in this area. And there's a trust level, there's an education, there's a passion and everything else of that nature. But everyone needs to start to level up, especially in these times. To be able to get a referral from me, you need to stand out. If everyone's the same, you're not outstanding. You want to basically level up. So you're standing on a box, so it's easy to see you. And if you level up even more, you're standing on a ladder and you really stand out. And these are the few individuals, whether it be a Louis Simmons in powerlifting. He's done an incredible job. John Meadows in bodybuilding has done an incredible job. Dave Tate in powerlifting. We have these different people that have really been outstanding. Arnold Schwarzenegger in bodybuilding basically changed bodybuilding forever, made it mainstream instead of some weird, sport that was in the back. The Arnold Sports Festival is the largest sports festival in the world. It's bigger than the Olympics. More people and more sports and more athletes. So you can take someone's vision and run with it and really make a huge, huge difference. Does this make sense, Brad?
Yeah, I love it. And I think that's such an important thing is to have that congruency and alignment. And a lot of the times people want to be very passive and think, I know, especially for practitioners, like, hey, I'm going to get my name out there. I'm going to start hustling hard and going to businesses. And one of the first things, like when I'm looking at a joint venture, is I make a list of people in the area and I say, which ones do I resonate with the most? So there's certain chiropractors that I don't necessarily agree with in terms of like how they've treated. So, the same thing for physios, like doing a heat pack and doing an adjustment, giving you a list of exercises. Those people I don't necessarily really resonate the most with for my treatment. So I want to surround myself with people like you and others that are like treating very similarly and having that congruence. I think that's a really, really important thing. And also really focusing on developing yourself as that authoritative figure and that know, like, and trust. Like I know you've written a book on muscle testing. You're hosting like events with thousands of people and, you've got a network of like some of the top people in the world for treatment and training. And those are the things that really help build preeminence. And it's part of a process. It's not like that happened overnight and it's like, boom, you had all of 20,000 patients. It was over time, and it's investing in yourself and that niche and getting better and realizing that it's a bit of a process, but you really need to be focused on the outcomes and what you're looking at solving as the problem, surrounding yourself with the right people and consistently improving, like taking the education, going above and beyond. There's so many practitioners that I talk to who get like a medical license and then that's it, other than a few random CEUs that they take just to maintain their certification. Like, I know you spent hundreds of thousands probably of dollars. Like I know I've spent that myself, like on continuing education and meeting people and networking. So I think that that's, super valuable. And I'm really curious, like, I think the big thing, to shift the conversation a little bit too, is like making it above yourself and being able to network with people and like sort of like, what are some of the strategies, you suggest? So like if someone is a new trainer and they've got a bit of a niche, or they're a physical therapist and they want to, connect with other people, like how would you want them, or what do you suggest for them to connect with other people?
I think the biggest thing, I think the biggest thing is for a trainer or for a physiotherapist or a chiropractor, it doesn't really matter, is to just create a niche. It doesn't really matter. You can always change it. Like, my niche is in the weight training world. So 50% of my practice are people that exercise, that weight train. The other 50% are the mothers, the daughters, the fathers that have never weight trained. These are the fathers of my patients. They say, hey, my dad's got low back. Can you come and can he see you? I says, absolutely. They will never weight train, and that's fine. And that way you build up your practice, because people find you based on what you do, and they get to know you, they get to like you, and then if they see your style and you're able to get results, then they'll trust you. And in my profession, it's a little easier because, I mean, they already know that I've gone through a lot of schooling. The challenge with chiropractic is that a lot of people don't trust us. There's a number of different, styles, marketing schemes, and the media in of itself has not been kind to chiropractic as far as, don't go to a chiropractor. Once you go, you're going to go for the rest of your life, and all this other nonsense that, it's okay for a dentist, but it's not okay for a medical doctor or for a chiropractor. So my view, so I'm going to go back to this mentoring story. So I'm there and have the second, third, and fourth years. And there's a guy there. I asked him, some people are saying, oh, I want to become really good at shoulder or, a sport. I said, okay. This one guy there, he goes, I want to do badminton. And I went, badminton? Oh, okay. Why badminton? He says, well, I'm from Markham and there's a huge badminton community there. And I compete and I love it and everything else. And he's in second year. So I said, oh, awesome. So got the phone and I said, let's check it. So badmintoninjury.com, it's available. Buy it. He's in second year. I said, start making a website, start producing videos, start writing articles. If you have the inclination, it's pretty tough when you're in school, but you can do a book, but learn everything about badminton and badminton injuries. I don't even know the equipment. I always thought it was a birdie. It's not. It's called a shuttlecock, the little thing you hit across, the net. So I don't even know what the equipment is or anything else. He understands it. So if he builds up his reputation, show up at tournaments, help out, let people know that you're focused in on badminton. And so when he graduates in fourth year, he's going to have a waiting list because, everyone is always looking for who understands the mechanics and everything else of that nature. I get a lot of referrals from other chiropractors for weight training injuries. Why? Because I weight train, and I've always put it out there. So the biggest advice that I can tell people is focus in on something and become really good. And now you identify who else does that. Now, here's how you actually start to network. Most people, they come into my practice and I get probably one person a month, and they come in with their card and they go, they go to the front desk. Can I see Dr. Kanakin? No, he's busy. He's treating. And they always ask, well, can you interrupt him? Can he come and talk to me? No. So Charmaine's pretty good that way. So anyways, they say, well, can I leave my cards? I'm a personal trainer and I'm new in the area and I want to, get some referrals. And so, and I might walk out in the waiting room at that time and they go, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm a new personal trainer, can you refer people over to me? Now, number one, do I know you? No. Do I like you? No, because I don't know you. Do I trust you? Hell no.
And they're interrupting you.
Yeah. Do I know anything about you? No. Do I like your application? No. I don't know anything. And yet this is what people do. And they expect that if you dump off some cards, that I'm going to refer, all my patients over to you. No, I'm not. No one's going to do that. Because what happens is that if I refer someone over to you and you hurt them or you screw them up or anything else of that nature, I will lose that patient and my reputation. So this is a dating process. People have to understand that. You don't walk up to someone and say, hey, you're kind of cute, seem nice, want to get married, on the first date, creepy, you don't do that. So the whole thing is, how do you actually go in? Number one is you start asking around, who is the top chiropractor in this area, whether it be low back, whether it be for a sport or anything else. And so for weight training, if someone wanted to do it, what you do is that you would phone up the clinic and you ask for the last appointment before lunch. Why? If you basically get me, say at around 10:30 in the morning, I got a waiting room full of people. I got 2 or 3 rooms. I got acupuncture and everything else. I'm going to give you about 2% of my attention. And you go, here are my cards, and I'll go, okay, thanks, and I'll put them on my desk and never look at them again, because I don't have the attention span on that. But the last appointment before lunch, I'm done. Now I can put my full attention onto you, and when I'm talking to you, I can really listen to what you say. So when you phone up, say, you know what, I want to meet the chiropractor, and I'm looking for someone to refer my clients over to. You reverse it. And so for chiropractors, and for the chiropractors that are on this call or in the group, that it can cost $5,000 to $10,000 a year for this practice management. Singer, cats, all the different groups. And I've been part of some of them. So how do you build up your practice? There's different ways of doing that. But for the trainer, if a trainer walks in and says, you know what, I want to refer over, you have my attention. You're not asking for something, you're actually giving. So I'm getting to know you. I'm starting to like you, because you know what? This is really good. And a little bit of trust, you must know whether or not. Now, you show up to the clinic 15 minutes before. Why? You want to take a look at the clinic. You want to see the type of patients that are there. How does the clinic look? Is it from the 1970s? Is it updated? How's the front desk interacting with people? Because you're going to referring people over, and you want to see whether or not you want to refer anyone over. You want to see how the chiropractor also interacts with people. Is he funny? Is he easygoing? Is he intense? Is he strict? You want to see whether or not you like them and whether or not you'll trust them. You can also ask the front desk, can I get a tour of the clinic as I wait for the chiropractor? If they're not too busy, he says, yeah. And they can show you the different rooms. You can see the layout. Oh my God, I see that he's gotten all these different awards. Oh, he's treated these people. He has pictures and everything else. So you can get a sense of the person. And now when you finally meet the chiropractor, male or female, doesn't really matter, say, you know what, I'm really interested in what you do. Can you explain it? How do you actually treat? What are the different modalities that you use? And see whether or not there's a fit. So now you're looking at their education and also the application, getting to know the person. But now, you went to school. Okay, what other unstructured education did you get? What seminars did you go to? Are you certified in active release and in Grasson? Oh, I see that you took acupuncture. You're certified in acupuncture too. Fantastic. I heard it's really good for that. And the application, are you, a 3 times a week for the next 6 months type of person, or is it based case on case? Do you, do block, booking in the sense of, you're going to pay for everything, and all different styles. And one doesn't mean that it's bad or anything else of that nature. It's just a style. So you get to see the application. How do they actually apply all of their knowledge and their experience in that area? And then you say, you know what? I want to come in as a patient. I'll pay for it. And most chiropractors at the time say, you know what? Not a problem. I'll assess you. And a lot of them will not charge you, because they're looking for the networking also. And so they do their assessment and possibly treatment. You see whether or not you actually enjoy it. And then you say, you know what? I want to give you a free assessment, and also let's go into the gym. Let's see whether or not I can actually help you, so you can understand what I do. Because you can give them a pamphlet or anything else. It's different when you go into the actual gym or into the studio or anything else of that nature, and it can make a huge difference that way. Now, I did this presentation a few years ago, about 6-8 years ago, at CanFit. There was 200 or 300 people in the audience. The next year, after I did this presentation on how to get referrals and networking, this guy runs up to me and he says, I've got to tell you this story. I said, what? He says, I did everything you did. Last appointment before lunch, told him that, I want to pay for it and everything else. And it was up in Guelph, and it was a male, female chiropractors that owned the clinic. And they looked at each other and they went, you know what? We have the basement, and we're looking to build our own little, basically, rehab and training facility down there. If we buy all the equipment and send all of our patients down there, would you be willing to work with us? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So literally within 1 month, his practice was completely filled, and he actually had to hire personal trainers. So there's so many different ways, but if you reverse it and you give instead of asking, that's the fastest way to actually make a difference in people's lives and to create that know, like, and trust. And you can turn that into loving the person, not from a weird sexual way or anything else of that nature, but just basically you love what they do. It's a higher level than just being, liking them. Does that make sense, Brad?
I think that's super helpful. And that's the big thing. It's like you want to be able to make sure that you're really making it about them. And I think it's far too often we're taught, or people just think like, what's in it for me? Here's a brochure, give it to me. I'm the practitioner. And it needs to be really a long-term relationship, and a lot of,
dating.
Exactly. And you've got to make sure that, the positioning that there's a lot of people, I don't know where the quotes come from, but it's like, people don't really care about you. They kind of only really care about themselves. So if you can sort of pitch them to a degree of like, hey, I'm a personal trainer. I've got a bunch of people I'm working with. I'm looking to connect with other people in the area and see if we can have a mutually beneficial relationship. I can refer my patients to you and trust you. Booking the appointment and anything is a great thing to do, because that shows a lot of that you're taking action. The worst thing that I hated is when people would come to me looking for jobs or looking for like clients. Like I literally have people come into the clinic and be like, hey, I'm a massage therapist. Can you refer me people? And it's sort of like, we have massage therapists working here. Like, why would I do that kind of thing? And they're like, kind of like, I've had people literally very upset, or like someone wanting jobs and stuff. But, someone who's literally paid for your time or has taken that action is huge. I've used like shock and awe packages, like from Dan Kennedy, to like get, not to get them to set it up, but just to get someone's attention. And I think like the booking appointment is a really good option there as well. So
yeah, you know what? And it's 5 minutes, and that's all you want to do is just take 5 minutes. It'll probably go on longer because the chiropractor or the massage therapist or the physical therapist, they can go longer or they can go as short. And right up front whether or not you want to work with this person. That's the other thing. And it's a kind of an inclusion exclusion. You've heard a lot of great things about this person and everything else, and you go meet them and you go, man, this is one intense person. It just doesn't fit. And it's not a bad thing, because I mean, if you have two intense people and they go, hey, friend, or if you had two laid back people, they connect, they resonate, because it's like-minded. They see themselves in the other person. But a lot of times, you want to find the right person to work with. And once you do, it's no different in any relationship. You want to find out whether or not you can actually build that. And that way, it just goes on from there. And so all you need is 2 or 3 chiropractors as a personal trainer, because you don't have a lot of people. You get a couple of people a month from our professions. It's enormous. It's enormous. But the biggest thing is that you have to basically know, like, and trust. You got to start working with building, this aspect, learning about them, finding out what's the easiest way to do it, and then getting to understand their education, and then how do they actually apply it? What are their different applications? How do they apply all their education?
Yeah, totally. I love it. And I know, like, you've been doing the Swiss Symposium and, really creating connections between health practitioners and personal trainers, so that way we can have a higher level, or that ascension that you're talking about. And I know you've got kind of like an event you're working on, and I think it would be cool to, if you're not familiar with Dr. Ken and his Swiss and everything, you got to check it out, because it's changed my career and really allowed me to have a lot of different options and meet great people and learn techniques that allowed me to work with high level athletes and be able to confidently get, exponential results that a lot of people, don't necessarily get. And so definitely check that out. And I'd love for you to kind of like talk a little bit about, your
my new idea.
Yeah, I can't remember what you called it. The survival health practice.
Survival Alliance. I think the biggest thing is that I think the health industry, the health professionals can really help the personal training industry if they can level up the personal trainers and focus in on something specific. Then myself and all of my friends and colleagues, we can actually help refer. But we don't know you. we don't know what you know, and we also don't know how you apply it. So that's the biggest thing, is start creating that whole focus. So when I put on symposiums, I did it at the Delta Meadowvale, which turned into the Hilton Hotel just here in Mississauga. And so I've been doing that for about 20 years, and this was from 2018. So I had a number of different streams. So I had, the training stream, I had the rehab stream, I had the nutrition stream, I had the treatment stream, and then one thing I called the underground, which was sort of a mishmash of different techniques and stuff that's just kind of cutting edge type of stuff, whether it be blood flow restriction training, or lactic acid testing for aerobic, or PRP, a number of different protocols that were shown. So I did that, and I was supposed to do it in October in 2020. I couldn't. So just yesterday, day before, I finally figured out how I can do this virtually, and it'll be focused in on business. And so I'm going to ask most of the presenters, here to present, and it'll be a TED Talk style, which will be 15, 20 minutes, and answering 3 questions. Number 1 is, what does it take in order for you to refer someone to someone? So say Ed Cohn lives in Chicago, and he's got a friend that's moving to New York, and who's the top trainer in New York that this guy can actually work with. What does Ed Cohn look for? Or even and the second level is, what do you look for? How do you find a health professional, physiotherapist, a chiropractor, or anything else? What is it that you look for? And then the third is, what's an actionable step that I can actually do to actually start to create my my network? What are some different tips that I can do on Monday morning, actionable tips? So they're just going to answer those 3 questions and have all these different presenters. I've written them all down as far as asking him. And Brad, I just asked Brad before this presentation if he's going to do it. And he's going to come on and do it. And there'll be short little presentations, because what I find with presenters, the more time you give them, the more they ramble on. If you give them a short amount of time, the information is actually more impactful and actually more actionable, because they don't have a lot of time in order to do that. So I'll be interviewing all these different people. So Swiss 2021 is going to happen on May 8th, and it'll be all virtual. So it'll be the Swiss Alliance Virtual Summit, and there will be 3 presentations every hour on May 8th, and to be able to impart all of this information. And it'll be 2 different models. One will be free, so if you want to sit and if you're not doing anything on May 8th, you can sit and watch it on your phone, watch it, it'll be streamed. And then if you want the recordings, they'll also be for sale, for that. So that's what my focus in is right now, because I think I'm seeing around here in Toronto and Mississauga, a lot of gyms are closing. A lot of my patients that are personal trainers, they're really struggling, and they don't know when they're going to actually be working again, and how much. Because right now you got a 30,000 square foot gym that you're only allowed 10 people in. So the personal trainers, they're taking turns coming in, but it's really super challenging. And talking to Brad earlier, this is a year, and it's still now they're talking 3rd wave and everything else of that nature. So I think the health professionals can actually start to develop and work with the fitness professionals, and that's what my goal is. And so if we hear from the best in the world, what does it take to get a referral from Eric Serrano? What's he looking for? And these are questions that no one has ever really asked. And you get a chance to hear the responses, and it's like, oh, so that's what you're actually looking for. I told you what I'm looking for, but that's the biggest thing. Not COVID. Anyways, so that's what I'm going to be doing. And so you can follow me on social media.
We'll post the links below. It'll be easier than writing on the sheet.
Yeah. So that's what I'll be doing. So anyone can sign up, and I think it'll be powerful. I still want to do a large in-person in the fall, if the hotels open up and the borders open up, everyone's like, hey, you gonna run Swiss again? Borders have to open up first, because a lot of the presenters come from different countries, United States. So that's what my focus is in. And so on May 8th, definitely be doing the Swiss Alliance, Survival Alliance, and to try and develop and work with people on that level. And then I'll be doing post symposium summit webinars and everything else. And then the other model that I'm working with, physiotherapists have what is known as a physiotherapist assistant. And so what I'm going to be doing is trying to teach, and I'll put together a program on how you can become a chiropractic rehabilitative assistant. So now you can work under the licensure, because there's a number of clinics I'm still working. And we have the physiotherapists. I work with some physiotherapists, and the physiotherapists are working along with the physiotherapist assistants. Now, the physiotherapist assistants, to become one, you just basically say, I'm a physiotherapist assistant. There are different programs, there are different schooling, but it's usually taught in the actual clinic. So I'm going to try and put together some stuff. I haven't really talked about this as far as from the chiropractic standpoint, but I think you can easily work underneath me, whether it be in a clinic or even at home, to try and work around these different lockdown rules and develop your business and some different revenue streams. There's a lot of different ways that you can actually make it through this time. And that's one way that we're going to be doing.
Love it. Well, I appreciate you coming on today and sharing, your wisdom and really being able to help provide some value of like how people can niche down, why it's important.